Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast for Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is the founder and creative director of the sustainable and ethical fashion brand Cleobella. Her designs have been worn by celebrities, including Halle Berry, Jessica Alba, and Kate Hudson. Thank you so much for being here today, Angela O'Brien.
Thank you for having me, Chelsea.
Of course. I actually, I grew up in Huntington Beach, so I've been a very big fan of Cleobella and got to go to your store growing up. So I've been really excited to get to talk with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was born and raised in Huntington Beach, and our family lives in Seal Beach now. And
Nice.
It's a pretty great place to grow up.
It is. And Seal Beach is so beautiful. I'm jealous you get to live there. So yeah, growing up in Huntington, what did you love about it?
Well, I feel like as a child, it was really idyllic. And in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't as developed as it is now. So it felt like a quiet beach town. I was kind of remembering there weren't even hotels you could stay on the beach. There was a few motels. And nowadays, it's such a hot spot for surfing. And my dad was a firefighter. My mom was a nurse. And
oh, wow.
We lived in suburbia. All my cousins lived close by, and I had a really, really great childhood.
That's amazing. I can't picture it without the hotels. I think I was there in the 90s, 2000s, and I think maybe the Hilton had been built. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. So what sparked your interest in fashion?
So I always loved creating, and I was sewing my own clothes, vintage shopping from young girl. And it was something I think was passed down from my grandmother, Angela, who I'm named after. She loves all things fashion and treasure hunting. So we grew up shopping together. And then my other grandmother was an artist. So at the age of 6, I grew up painting with her. So I was always in love with the arts and creating. My cousins used to say I would make everything beautiful, even math presentations. I was just loved to be surrounded by beauty and create beauty. And at the age of 12, I got introduced to the fashion industry by a family friend who worked for Yamaha Wave Runners as a model. So he actually saw my Christmas card that my mom would put out annually and decided to hire me for a campaign in the Bahamas. So I got to ride jet skis, and I got introduced to the fashion and modeling world. And from that, it led me to getting an agent in LA and Orange County and traveling. And I feel like the fashion world opened me up to a more global community. And I lived in Japan for 6 months on a modeling contract. And I traveled extensively through Europe, working a little bit back and forth to New York, a lot of catalogs. And I always say I was never a really good model. I was fearful to be in front of the camera, and I wasn't confident. But it taught me resilience, and it taught me that I didn't have to be the brand, but I could make the brand. And my love of creating kind of led me to this. And I think the modeling world opened my eyes to new possibilities. So I'm so grateful for that, and for my family for always supporting me.
What an incredible experience getting to live in Japan.
It was amazing. I was 18 years old, and I had never traveled anywhere internationally. And my whole family is from Northern Ireland. So my mother was born in Ireland. My grandmother was born and raised in Ireland. And so we have these strong, European roots, but I never grew up traveling. We would go to Mexico and we would go camping. And so the travel bug, it bit me, and it's never left me. And we travel so much. I feel like my kids one day might want to do the opposite and say, okay, mom took us everywhere home, because we are on a plane somewhere every month on a new adventure. And we just love traveling. It's my husband and I, it's our love language. It's kind of how we fell in love. And it continues to be a part of who we are and the brand ethos. And we just love that feeling, that energy exchange of being in a foreign place and learning about other cultures. And it's been really fun.
Definitely. And how long did you model for?
Gosh, from about 12 to 24. So
wow.
time. Yeah. And I remember I went to Huntington Beach High School, and did you go there too?
I did.
That's right. And I would be pulled out of school to go on castings up in LA, and my mom would drive me, and it was like such a process of, learning the industry and sort of learning how to be, an entrepreneur in a way, and, managing your money and keeping yourself organized for future jobs and all of that. So it was, a really great experience overall. And it was a long time. I was so happy when I said goodbye to the modeling world. So much empathy, because now Cleobella hires so many amazing models. And it's a hard job. It really, it looks all glamorous, but there's it's a lot involved in being a model, and it just wasn't for me. So I feel really grateful to the industry for guiding me on this path of creating my own brand. And it's been fun.
Awesome. And what college did you go to?
I went to Cal State Dominguez Hills. So I was actually going to Orange Coast College, and I was taking a fashion class and my undergraduates. And that's when I got the contract to go to Japan. And, I was really, I knew college was really important to me. I wanted to get my degree, and I took a lot of night classes while I was modeling during the day because I had that flexibility. So I graduated from Cal State Dominguez Hills with a degree in marketing and PR. And I feel like it's not even relevant now. I don't even know if it's relevant, but I wanted to get that. It was important. And I'm so glad I did. It would encourage everyone to go to college. But my college experience was really unique because I was working and traveling, and I couldn't wait to be done because I just wanted to get into the industry. And I would make business plans, and I had so many big dreams for myself, and I was done with school, and I'm just more practical in a way. That's how I learn, through experiences. And it's great when you get older and you learn what your strengths are, and you just acknowledge your strengths, and you acknowledge your weaknesses for what they are. And for me, just getting in and being a part of the process and the experience is what really is what I love to do most.
Yeah. And you mentioned your husband earlier. How did you guys meet?
So Jim and I met, actually, I was modeling. I had just got back from Japan, and it was a week before my 20th birthday. So I was a baby. So maybe I was in Japan when I was 19. So I had just gotten back from a modeling contract in Japan, and my agent said, there's a trade show in Long Beach, and I know you're single, and there's a lot of cute boys. So you And I went, and my husband, Jim, was working for a surf line at the time called Ezekiel Clothing. And they had just flying. Yeah, that was like forever ago. And so they hired me to wear the product, and we just got to talking, and we had so many similar interests. He loved to travel and surfing. He grew up in LA. And so the relationship grew very organically about just mutual likes. And we were in the friend zone for quite a long time. My husband's 8 years older than me. And I just remember we just had so much fun together. One of our first dates in the early days, we went to Costa Rica.
My God.
I know, right? I was very impressed. It was just, and that's who he still is. He's still a big kid, and he loves to have fun. And so we just always had a lot of fun together. And that's how the relationship grew. And I was married when I was 23 years old. So I was quite young when I married Jim. And our honeymoon was a year around the world. So we had saved our money, and we traveled for a year, and we backpacked, and we lived in a camper van in Europe, and we traveled all through Southeast Asia. And he's a big surfer. So he's really guided by the waves and, where the climate is good at what time of the year. So that was the whole design of the trip, was all around surfing. And I'm not much of a surfer, and I'm not much to like lay on the beach. So we were spending a lot of time in Bali and India. I met different artists and families, and I started creating there. And that's kind of where Cleobella was born. We say Cleobella was born on the open roads and our love for travel and love for exploring. And now I get to work with my best friend, and
Oh,
we've grown this business now for more than 15 years, and just very grassroots.
yeah. And how did you meet the artisans that you would eventually come to work with?
It was, we had a driver in Bali. His name was Elvis, I remember, and he drove this like red minivan, and he took us all around. And one of his dear friends was a woman who sewed in the village, and we still work with her today. Her name's Yanti,
Wow.
and she's so talented. And that was back in 2006. So it was just having conversations with people, and I want to create this. How can you introduce me to this? And I feel like that's very much of who I am. I'm a seeker, and I'm very curious, and I've learned that people love to share. I love to share too,
Yeah.
when you can help people. And that's what Bali was to me. It was just meeting this person and that person. I remember going down back alleys and, walking through, like in India, rat infested places. I was just on a hunt, a treasure hunt. Really, that's what it was. And, meeting beautiful families that are just like our family, essentially, who we started building together. So I would draw on paper what I was looking for. And we sat down together most of the time in their homes and
Wow.
built the collection. And so, it was months. The process was months. So we ended up continuing to extend our travels in Asia at the time, because I was creating and my husband was surfing.
How
Um,
cool.
yeah, and that's when I designed our first leather item. It was the Mexicana clutch. I designed
Mm.
a hobo bag and a clutch, and that was going to be part of the collection. And I knew when we were traveling at the time, you had to have your passport holder, and I created the ultimate travel clutch essentially, because that was the mindset I was in, and that became Cleobella's first signature piece. And we created it with a family in Bali, Mo and Aaliyah, and we still work with them today. They still make the Mexicana clutch, and
Wow.
that's really important to me. And just the integrity of the brand is growing with the people that started. I know we could make it cheaper in other places in the world, but it's all about those relationships. And I'm so
Mm.
grateful to our partners who we continue to get to grow with today.
That's amazing. And had you designed before, or did you kind of just like know what you wanted to make?
I always created. I was the kid at night. I was sketching in my bed, just drawing. I was always drawing, and I when I had a vision in my head, I wanted to see it through. My mom said that if it wasn't right when I was little, I would rip it up, and I'd be really frustrated. And it's see, my daughter does the same thing. It's just this like need and desire to create what you can see. And I am a very visual thinker. So when I actually can see things complete in my mind, and then I want to achieve it. And so it's a strength and a weakness.
Yeah.
But I not formally designed in a way where I went to school, but in some ways I really think that's worked in my advantage, because I didn't have kind of the constraints of traditional design. It was just like this intuition and all creativity. And there is so much formality to it when you get into technical, especially when we launched into clothing.
Mm.
But it was just drawing and sketching and working with different materials, and, learning how to sew with my mom. Frankly, I don't love sewing. I don't have the patience to sew. I'm a little ADD, but I can see things, and I love being about the process and seeing it come to fruition, and
Mm.
then seeing people wear the product and enjoy it and live in it, have it be a function of their life. That's the most rewarding part of this whole experience.
Yeah, I love that. And then also you mentioned India as well. What inspired you there?
So, my entire life, I had this Aunt Susie who was so much of a muse for me. she traveled extensively through India. She
Wow.
had so many different degrees. She was very educated. She dated Elvis Presley for a number.
What?
Yes, I know. And she was so fabulous. She was so beautiful, and the way she dressed and the way she talked, she lived life, and
Oh
she
my
did
God.
she never really married. Her life to me as a young girl, I would drive in the car with her back from her home in Palm Springs back to Long Beach, and I would ask her stories about her life, and she would talk so much about India. And I remember vividly hearing her stories, and it was as if I was there. And my dream was to travel there at some point. So, on our trip around the world, on our honeymoon back in 2006, that was part of one of the stops that I wanted to go to. And there's no surfing there. So, it's definitely like for my husband. But we arrived, and there was such a feeling of home, and the uniqueness of how different the culture is, the colors, the food. I mean, the beautiful people. We have some of the most incredible partnerships with families that we've worked with for years. And in fact, my husband grew up with a friend who lives in India, and she at the time she was working for the UN, and now she's a school teacher.
Wow.
She showed us all around India. She married an Indian man, and she still lives there in New Delhi. Her name's
Wow.
Jenny, and I go back to see her every year. And so when we arrived, it just everything fell into place. And I met this man named Raj, and he sold these Indian wrap skirts that were made from recycled saris. And the beautiful story that we were told is all the women in the village, would give up their saris and trade them for different things that they needed for their home. And they would make them into these skirts that you could wear 100 different ways.
Wow.
And so I bought these skirts. Actually, at the time, my husband was in the hospital because we had swam in the Ganges, and he got sick. You know how you can do the blessing in the Mother Ganges? This was up in Rishikesh, where the Himalayas,
Oh,
the
okay.
Ganges, and it's where yoga was founded. So a beautiful
Wow.
scene. He got sick. I didn't. We came back to New Delhi, and I was off on a mission to find experts while my husband was in the hospital. He's fine, obviously, but it was. I mean, I think about meeting Raj, and it was this little back street in this area called Paharganj, and I would be hand selecting these wrap skirts, and I got his business card, and we DHL shipped it home, and I thought to myself, okay, is this going to happen? And it did, and luckily I kept in contact with Raj, and then every couple of months I would keep ordering these wrap skirts from him. So it was just
Wow.
a combination of my interest in India and the stories I would hear from my childhood, and then that feeling of home when I arrived. So I really feel like, in so many ways, Bali and India have been like a second mother to me, and really growing me and nurturing this love I have for exploring and creating. And feel really grateful that we get to continue to work in these countries and have our children experience
Oh.
them. And I think it just gives you a feeling of oneness, when you go to places
Mm.
that are so different, and you meet people that are so different, and you realize we're all the same in so many
Yeah.
ways. And that's what I love about this creative community that we've built. It's when I look back, because it's been more than 15 years, I think, gosh, if my 20-year-old self even knew
Yeah.
what would become of this little dream that was birthed just for a love of creating, it makes me just feel really grateful.
Yeah. And had you at this point like named the business yet? Like did you come up with Cleobella for this point?
Yeah. So my great grandmother's name is Cleobella, and my mother's name is Cleobella. So it's a family name. And my mom
Oh.
came to visit me in Bali, and I was just walking the streets of Bali, and I said, "Mom, I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to name it after you." So it was just like happened. Nothing was overly thought. It was very much
Wow.
on my intuition guiding me, and I think being really naive and really brave, And that's kind of a beautiful story in itself because our family name is my grandfather was from Nebraska, and his father was actually he died in a gunfire to the head when
Oh.
my grandfather was only 3 years old. So
Oh, wow.
he left my grandmother Cleobella a widow. And at that point, my grandfather, grew up in the farming community, really having hard times. My grandmother, Cleobella, remarried. And at 17 years old, my grandfather joined the Navy. And that's when he got stationed in Northern Ireland and met my grandmother, Angela.
Wow. Oh my God.
Well, the whole family story where it's all integrated. We live in Seal
Yeah.
Beach because this is where my grandmother lives, and there's a Navy base here on where he brought our family.
Oh,
And yeah, so I think to myself, gosh, this kind of adventure that started with my great grandmother Cleobella, and she was such a warrior of a woman, and then leading to my grandfather going to Ireland and bringing the family here in this beautiful life we get to live in California. I drive
yeah.
coast from Seal Beach to Costa Mesa, where our kids go to school at the Waldorf there. And that coast drive, I think, gosh, how lucky are we
I
that
know.
we live here? It's incredible.
That's so true. And then you guys also lived in Maui, is that right? After your trip?
We did, yeah. So my husband was in after the surf industry. He created basically a real estate company, and he decided he was going to be a developer. And
Wow.
he took on an adventure with his brother where they were building some homes in Maui, and that was in 2007, right before the market crash.
Oh
So
no.
we were there on his project, and I decided that I was going to sell my designs at local farmers markets on the weekend. And that really was such a great place to start. I recommend anyone who has, a creative bug to create something small and build it selling just, through either house parties or local markets. And there's so much great feedback you can get, and you can create something
Oh.
without a lot of investment. So we started Cleobella with $12,000. It was a few designs. And when we moved to Maui, I did everything from get a business license to create my own website, selling at the markets on the weekends, wholesaling it to local shops around the islands. And Maui was such a great place to create and learn a business. And after that year, I was hungry to go back to California and
Mm.
really launch Cleobella as more of a brand. But that first year, it was such a success and a lot of hard work, a lot of waking up at 4 a.m. and going
Oh,
to the markets and all the things you do when you're learning how to start a business. But it's it really taught me so much. And I don't think we would be where we are today without that experience at the markets.
wow.
In 2008, we moved back to California after the project that my husband was doing with his brother was didn't work out because of what was happening
Mm.
with the economy. And we said, let's go back to Bali one more time and create more of a collection. And so that's what I did. I designed a clothing and a handbag collection. And then we moved back to Seal Beach in 2008, and I
Mm.
launched LA Fashion Week. So I rented a space at a showroom from this woman named Gazella, and her showroom was called Nyali Showroom.
Uh-huh.
And she taught me so much about the business. I after the show, she said, Angela, I will teach you the business and you can show some of your handbags here if you help work for me. So I worked for her for a year,
Oh, wow.
minimum wage, and she helped guide me on the whole process from how to write purchase orders, how to collect from different accounts, what stores to sell to. And she would take me to the shows in New York every year. And I would sleep in the closet on a couch at
Oh
her
my God.
boyfriend's like really cool, artist loft. And It was, I mean, it was such a great experience. And then I got to show my collection at New York Fashion Week at the same time helping her sell the other line. So really just bootstrap this business just from, learning and growing and meeting other people. And then I would fly back and forth to Bali and build new collections. And so
Wow.
it got to a point that we grew so much that I was a one woman show and couldn't do everything. And that's when I stopped working for her in a sales capacity, and she represented Cleobella.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, we got into stores like Fred Siegel when that was really big thing, Planet Blue. We started selling to Shop Up,
Wow.
and it was mostly in the accessory space. The clothing
Mm.
was something that I knew it would happen eventually. And yeah, we ran the business out of our house for years and traveled back and forth to Bali and all through Southeast Asia. So it was really, I say the journey was very step by step, and they teach you that in Bali. It's like, I think it's so easy to get excited about, what the future holds. But if you just focus
Mhm.
on working on, what you know to be true and do it, slowly and gradually, I think you can really build a sustainable brand. And everything that we made at Cleobella, I would put back into the growth of the business. And we, we still, my husband and I own the company 100% ourselves today. We've never taken
Wow.
investment, and we've just, decided to take this slow process. And I really love that that's our journey, and that we've had opportunities along the way to bring on investors and have different help to help us really scale. But for us, just building this sustainable, slow fashion business just has always felt really right to us. And, it has remained a big part of, who we are today. And I think that's why we're still here.
Yeah. And speaking of having a sustainable, like doing that sustainably, you also have a sustainable and ethical business. And
Well,
you're kind of on the forefront of that, I feel, right?
oh, thank you. Well, yeah, working with recycled materials is definitely important to us. And that was a core pillar in the beginning days, and creating sustainable income for our artists and partners.
Mm.
There's this idea of buy the change you want to see in the world. And I think if you invest in sustainable products and brands that have good values behind them, that's what really helps get people out of poverty and helps create, lasting futures for other families. And that's been something I've had the privilege of seeing on our travels and seeing the impact that you can make.
Mm.
And I have never strayed away from my vision of that being one of the core pillars, because I feel as an entrepreneur, and especially as a female founder, that it's really important to be in alignment with your own personal values.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that when you are, everything just works out. And it's hard. Sometimes it doesn't always feel like the most profitable way, but it's the long road. And I think it's
Mhm.
the road to really, to be proud and to live in alignment and integrity. And that's, really important for me as a person, and the way I lead our company and the way my husband leads our company. And we're very much on the same page with doing good in business, because, there's no shortcuts. And
Right.
this, the business has really taught me that, and the value of that. And it continues to be one of our core pillars today. And I'm learning. I mean, we are not doing everything perfect. Every year we have new goals and metrics on
Wow.
how we are growing as a sustainable company. We've spent the last year going through the process of B Corp certification, and that's something that we just applied for. So it's a benefit corp, which is just ultimate transparency in all aspects of your business on how you treat employees, different trade agreements that you have with your partners, the type of fibers that you use. It's everything from
Wow.
type of lighting you have in your office space. Like, how can you measure doing business for good? So it's kind of a gauge. And as a business owner, it helps you continue to kind of have a roadmap of what that looks like.
Wow.
We're also got certified organic cotton. So we work with local farmers in South India where there's no pesticides. And that's been really an important part of our journey, is making sure that we know where we're buying our cotton, where we're buying any of our fibers from, and how they're sourced, because our skin is the biggest organ in our body. And, it's really important to know that we're putting healthy food in our bodies, but also what are we putting on our bodies?
Yeah.
Staying away from synthetic fibers is really important for me, and just using everything that's natural that will decompose back into the earth. It's very simple, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot more education around it today. And we try as a company to share that with our customers because it's so important to us and the people that are making our product too. It makes for better working conditions for them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like back in 2008, I'd never really heard the word sustainable. Like I didn't really know what that meant in terms of clothing and businesses like that. So,
Yeah, I don't know if I knew exactly what it meant either. I feel like it's been such a journey. You have these ideas, and we've just gotten, with knowledge, there's power. When
mhm.
you know more, you do more, and that's an important part of the entrepreneur journey, is to continue to educate yourself on how you can leave as little footprint as possible, especially being in an industry where there's so much waste. So everything from how we design our product to be timeless and treasured pieces that you'll have in your
Mm.
closet forever, not these one uses that you'll throw away. Um,
Right.
we really hope that when you purchase a Cleobella product, you can feel the artisan hands that were a part of the process. I always talk about the hands and the hearts, because
Mm.
there's so many of the people that make Cleobella products are our friends and have become an extended version of our family. And I always want to honor that and make sure that is conveyed to the customer. And I really believe so many of our customers really, really care about that. And they feel that into when they're putting the product on. Because like I said, it's an energy exchange, right?
Yeah.
And we're all a part of it. There's so many options we have as consumers. And if you can buy less and buy product that there is more transparency, it just makes for a healthier world.
Definitely. And in 2014, you launched your first clothing collection. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And I also
Yeah.
birthed our daughter. So we have a son
Oh,
who's
wow.
13 and a daughter who is 9. And when our daughter came along, before I really knew that I wanted to grow into clothing. Accessories was the main part of our business at that point, but I was trying a leather fringe jacket and different things like that. But launching as a clothing collection was something I knew was possible, and so I designed a collection. I had an intern that was working with me that helped me see it through. I went to Bali and created it with our partners. There was so much of it was batiks and screen printing and fringe and leather, and I designed this beautiful collection that I was so proud of, and it it actually launched into the market the same month that our daughter Indigo's.
Oh my gosh.
What felt like such a birth in so many ways, and of this, idea and this dream that I wanted to see through, and this baby girl that we were bringing into the world. And it's just continued to grow year after year. And so many of the design aesthetics that we started with still remain part of Cleobella's design sensibility today. Is really celebrating femininity and, just making women feel confident in what they wear.
Yeah. And how did that launch affect the business?
Oh, we grew and grew and grew. And if I backtrack, when our son was born, we were still living back and forth in Bali, Indonesia, about 4 to 5 months out of the year, and
Wow.
working the business out of our home, shipping out of the garage with one employee. And just on the hustle, with this
Yeah.
baby boy that was on the journey with us, and he was just the coolest and so much,
Oh,
part of all of our photo shoots and a part of the creation in so many ways. And then when he got to be about 1 years old, I just thought, I can't have our business be in our home. I needed this life balance. So I found this little boutique that was built in the 1920s in
So
PCH.
cute.
And so it was technically Sunset Beach at the time, and then I think Huntington took over it. But we had that boutique for 11 years, and we just
Wow.
closed the doors in January. But it started as my office space, and it was really just if I could sell a few handbags in the front, then I could pay the bills and I could move the kids out of the house. And my son went to the local daycare right down the street.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, Marley's right there. Yeah.
Right. Oh my
And
gosh.
it was just such a dream as a mother. We're right on the beach. I got to pick him up, walk him down, put his feet in the sand. And, we created kind of this beautiful synergy of travel and having a physical space that the business could be separate from our home life, and everything was really growing from there. And then when we launched clothing in 2014 and the company grew so much, we ended up moving to our headquarters up the street where we are today, and we occupy about 12,000 square feet,
Wow.
shipping and office, and we're growing out of that. And we have about 40 employees where they operate in sales and marketing and design and fulfillment. And all of that is really what the business is. And the boutique was really meant to be an office. And when we moved to the warehouse, we kept it as a brick and mortar. And it's been such a magical place to have different events. We've had our
Ah.
children's birthday parties and my girlfriend's baby showers. And
Oh,
it was but the journey ended. Our lease was up. I've said we've grown beyond those walls. Retail in a physical sense is something that I can see for Cleobella in the next couple years, but
ooh, that's exciting.
there's always always new dreams that we're putting out
Yeah.
there. um, but we have such a robust wholesale and online business. We sell to over 500 specialty
Oh
stores.
my God.
We sell to Nordstrom's, Anthropologie, a lot of big online retail stores, and then small stores all around the country and overseas. And that's such a big focus of the company. And then our online store has become, in a way, a physical store. And we're
Mhm.
launching new collections and trying new things. And that's where we're really putting our energy right now, and it's really exciting. It's fun to try different things and have tap into a real global audience.
Definitely. And you've done incredible charity work as well. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? I love that you can donate on your website. Is the 1%?
Yeah, we work with Beam, and Beam's tremendous. They're such a great partner because at checkout, there's different charities that are important to us. One Tree Planted, the Surfriders Foundation, Girls Inc. So the customer can be a part of the process. So 1% of every sale on Cleobella.com can be gifted to a charity, which Cleobella is very much a part of that. So it's been a perfect combination because I've always wanted to start a nonprofit, and it's been a dream of mine. It's something I would like to see for myself in the future on celebrating really women. And when this opportunity came around to partner with Beam as like an add-on, and they really vet the different charities we work with, it's just been such a seamless way to do business. And, so much of the heart of Cleobella is giving back to women. And that's been something important, being a female founder, having my mother, my grandmother as the namesake of Cleobella, but also working with women who own their own factories. They're growing and supporting their families. And that's what I'm most proud of today, because I know how much being an entrepreneur has gifted my life, and to be able to be a part of that for other women is just been a tremendous blessing. So almost half of the factories that we work with are owned and operated by women. And
Wow.
we've grown from 40 people to hundreds of people, and then the other factories are owned by families and their husband and wife teams, just like my husband and I.
Oh, I love that. Um,
Yeah.
And in addition to everything we've talked about, you've also done beautiful collaborations with Olivia Wilde and interior designer Becky Owens, just to name a few. What can listeners look forward to next if you can share anything?
Oh gosh, God, the collaboration process has been so fun, and working with, different incredible women that we admire. The one we just finished was with Catherine Schwarzenegger, and
Amazing.
she is such a gem of a human. And she comes in and they're very much a part of the design of the collection. So we meet with them with fittings, they give us feedback, and then they share it with their audience. So there's some fun things happening. They're kind of secret surprises that are happening this year, but some really big ones. And it kind of blows my mind. These women that are living extraordinary lives that would want to collaborate with Cleobella. So stay tuned.
Yes. Sorry, I froze. But that's amazing. Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So first up, what is the best advice that you've received in your career that you still follow today?
Oh, I love that. Well, my husband actually, the best advice he's given me, and I think it's a quote he read, it's not what happens to you, it's what happens for you. So looking at every difficult situation as an opportunity to learn something and grow and not being a victim. My husband is my best friend. He's my business partner. He really helps guide Cleobella in so many ways, and I really value his opinion. And I go back to that quote all the time in any life situation, and I remind my kids, it's not what happens to you, it's what happens for you, and it's a choice.
I love that. And what advice do you have for businesses who are maybe trying to become sustainable?
Well, there's so much information down there or out there. I would say understanding B Corp is probably the best way to. We worked with so many different professionals in this space and who have said everything really goes back to B Corp. And so that can be a measurable way to guide the focus of how to be sustainable. And there's so many ways to look at sustainability. But for me, it's really trying to leave the smallest footprint on the planet and really connecting to the fibers that we use and that we choose to use. Because in the design process, 70% of the choices that you make that are sustainable come at the design level. So it really starts with us. But Benefit Corp too, B Lab is just a tremendous resource, and it really can help you figure out as a business what pertains to you and how you can do better.
Amazing. And then lastly, what skills or qualities do you feel have been crucial to your success?
Resilience. We've had we've had a lot of loss in our family, and I am no stranger to family death. And I have found that in the hardest times, that was always kind of the silver lining. And Cleobella's emblem is a lotus flower. And I learned this when traveling to Cambodia, is that the lotus flower only grows in the dirtiest, murkiest water. And it's just the most beautiful flower. It can be a bright fuchsia or a beautiful pearly white. And so I'm reminded in that, in just the resilience and the mental strength to rise above any situation and just try to continue to connect to the truth of who you are. And for me, I can envision the lotus flower, even when things around me are really hard. How can I stand tall and speak my truth? And all this is a practice that I have so many tools through my meditation and my Kundalini process to connect most to myself, so that I can be that strength for my family and other people around me.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my God, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm sure I will see you soon in Huntington.
I hope so.
Bye.
Bye.